Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Amen.
Amen.
So if you have one of those newfangled ear devices, this is a good time to turn it off. So take a look at the front of your bulletin. Use wealth, serve God. Use wealth, serve God, and not the other way around. Use wealth, serve God. For all of you bottom line people, there it is. That is the bottom line of the gospel for today. Use wealth, serve God. Amen. Okay? Yeah, some of you are like, yeah, good, right? No, but what's that look like? So I think that's my job, is to try to paint some pictures about what does that look like. Use wealth, serve God. And we get one painting in today's gospel. What it looks like is, it looks like the shrewd manager. Okay? Now, we do not have the time for me to unpack this shrewd manager. I've done 5 groups now, or participated in 5 Bible study groups this week, and 45 minutes, and I'm still not sure people get the shrewd manager. Okay? So we do not have the time to unpack it, unless you want to try. Okay, I'm going to say no. All right? So here's the deal with the shrewd manager. The same cleverness, the same good judgment, the same prudence, the same energy, the same creativity that shrewd manager uses in his job, we are to use in our relationship with God and service of God. Now just remember, he gets commended for his good judgment. He gets commended for his shrewdness. Jesus is holding that up for us to say, okay, so what do we take from the way people who live like that? The same energy, the same creativity, the same good judgment, the same prudence, the same cleverness that he uses in that relationship with his manager, we are to use in our relationship with God and our service of God. Okay, if that makes no sense to you, leave it. Because if you just get stuck here, then you're not going to hear the rest of this incredibly insightful sermon that I'm just about... So leave it. Just leave it then. Leave it as whatever, okay? So move on. Because the bottom line is, use wealth, serve God, and not the other way around. Use wealth, serve God. Okay, so what's that look like? So one of the first Bible studies I participated in was in Dallas, and I've told this to a couple of the groups I'm with, so if you're here from one of those groups and you're hearing this story again, I'm sorry, but it's a good story. So in this group that I participated in Dallas was a man, he's in his 70s, I'd say. And he was a very, very, very wealthy man, very, very, very successful guy. He was one of those kind of guys who just knew how to make money. You ever meet a guy like that? Man, those guys. But anyway, he was one of those guys. He could just do it. He was good at it. Everything he did made money. And he did that up until he was in his 50s. And then in his 50s, like many people, he kind of hit a wall, and the wall was, is this all there is to life, making money? Is my whole life just going to be about consuming things and acquiring things and getting things? Is that it? As Jesus puts it, am all I'm going to do is build bigger and bigger barns? And he decided no, he wasn't going to do that. And that's when he really kind of started the Bible study. And through week in, week out participation in this Bible study, this guy was very faithful, according to him anyway. He was very faithful. And not long into it, maybe 3-4 years into week in, week out studying the scriptures in a group, he started to change a bit. And he started, instead of just making money, he started giving it away. And he gave it away, and he gave it away, and he gave so much away, finally he became the primary person for building the homeless shelters and the feeding centers that were in Dallas. Not the only person, and he certainly didn't do it alone, but he was a big part of it. And what he said is the same fulfillment he used to get from making money as a young man, he now gets from giving it away as an older man. Use wealth. Serve God. So what do I do with that? Because I'm here to tell you, I am not good at making money. I'm bad at it. Just ask Cindy. I am bad. I don't know how to do it. I don't understand it. Don't do it well. So I can't do what he did. I can't do that. That's not going to be my way to serve God. See, this is when this stuff has to get personal. If you're going to just keep it away from you, then what I'm going to say to you will make no difference. This is when it has to get personal. So how do I serve God? I don't serve God by trying to be that man. The way I serve God is going to be, and the way we all serve God is through the gifts and the talents that each one of us has, not what we don't have. Okay? So how do I serve God? Well, I think back to that same Bible study and the guy who led it. The guy who led it worked at the church where I worked, and he also was a Old Testament and Semitic languages professor at Perkins School of Theology. And he, more than anybody else, has influenced the way that I understand the Scriptures. The way I understand them and the way that I use them and the way I let them shape me is because of him. And he's really made a big difference in my life by leading Bible studies. But when he was a young priest and he was getting all that started, somebody who was extremely interested in his career as a priest went to him one day, and he'd been kind of working with the groups for a couple years. She went to him and said, when are you going to just stop wasting your time doing all these Bible studies? Can't you see nobody cares about this stuff? I mean, it doesn't do any good. I mean, come on. If you really want to go where the action is in church, you got to go where the action is in church, and that's administration. Right? You're never going to be a rector, much less a bishop, if you don't go there. So, he said, well, maybe you're right. Maybe she's right. What am I going to do? And he stuck with the Bible study. And he told me as we were sitting one day talking, he said, and every time that I start to question that, whether it does make a difference, because sure, sometimes it seems to not. But he said, whenever I start to question that, he says, I go down to one of these feeding centers, and I watch the people getting their food, and I say, that came right out of our Bible study. Use wealth. Serve God, not the other way around. So what's that mean for you in your life, where you live? Because the idea of serving God is where you live. It's the daily stuff of life. It doesn't have to be gigantic thing, like sell everything and move to Calcutta or something like that. That's not the deal. I doubt very seriously any of you are called to do that, much less any good at it. So, where you serve God is where your life is, your daily life. Each and every day, you and I have a lot of opportunities, and some of them might seem insignificant, but we have a lot of opportunities to open ourselves up and to serve God where we are. Okay? And it's going to be very personal. It's going to be about you and your relationship with God, no doubt about it. But just to help you out a little bit, in case you want a little help, just to help you out a little bit. Just think of this. If you're really going to serve the God that Jesus reveals to us, then somehow or another it's going to push you and me in the direction of compassion. If we're going to serve the God that Jesus reveals to us, it's going to push us in that direction. Compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for your neighbors, and then if we get mature enough, compassion even for our enemies. Okay, so it's going to push us in that direction. It's going to push us in the direction of gratitude. The idea of living a life of gratitude and thankfulness rather than a life of scarcity and I don't have enough. And why can't I get more? So if we're going to serve Jesus, it's toward gratitude. And if we're going to serve the God that Jesus reveals to us, it's about generosity, as this gospel's trying to imply. It's about generosity, moving toward being a generous person. And once again, it doesn't have to be a gigantic thing. We were talking about this in one of the groups, and somebody showed me this card. Have you guys seen this card? It's called a deedle. Deedle, D-E-E-D-L-E. You never heard of it? Yeah, me either. So it's pretty cool that you never heard of it because here's the idea. Somebody started this idea that you take this card and then say you're filling up your gas at the gas station. You take this card and then you take like a $5 bill, a $10 bill, $20 bill, whatever you feel like you can, tape it to the gas pump, and then the next person who comes gets $20, $10, $5, whatever, and the card. And then that person takes it and goes and does, and generosity gets passed. Serve God, use wealth. That's the bottom line of today's gospel. And my hope is that you'll have the opportunity, or you'll see the opportunity in your life today, and that you'll do it. Amen.